John and I are here tonight. We are going to file a application with the state for a medical marijuana facility. Odds are slim to, they're pretty slim to get it. There's probably going to be hundreds of applications in the state, of which there's only, I think, 12 going to be granted in the state. And we're considering the turkey farm up there as a site to build this greenhouse. I think the greenhouse would be like, what, 2 acres now? Yeah, the max 2 acres or something like that to start with. A growing facility for it. As you all know, the state's passed the, legalized it in the state of Ohio, and it becomes effective. I think the applications are due in May, and they'll make a decision in September. And you have to be in production, I think, 9 months after that or something. Right?
Yeah, I think the whole thing comes together and is in action in September of 2018.
So applications are due in May of 2018?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're going to put an application, and we might get lucky, and we might not. We don't know. But we're going to try it, and they've got real strict regulations on this thing with security, vaults, FBI background checks. I mean, it's just really, really strict. And we think this thing will probably, well, I'm guessing 50 people from the sites that we visited. That's realistic. It might be accurate. Yeah. And the facility's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 to $8 million to build. And that's kind of what we have planned. But for us to go ahead with that in this location, we need from the township. I mean, right now there's nothing to stop anybody from doing it. But I don't want it to be a prohibited use in the township. We don't want to go out and go through all this work and plan it, and then you people say, well, it's prohibited in the township, after we went through all this. So I guess we'd look for a resolution from you people saying it is a permitted use in the township. Because the state doesn't want to, they don't want you, or they don't want us being somewhere where we're not welcome, I guess is what it really boils down to.
So you said the application deadline is May of 2018. Any
Yeah,
idea how?
we're moving now.
Okay, I was going to say how long it's going to take you to get the information for that application.
To get the application done? Oh, we're working on it now. We've got several sites in mind.
Okay.
The other one is permitted. We've already got a letter from them.
There's a really good site that the state puts out, and it's OhioMedicalMarijuana.gov. It has a very detailed structure which they put in place, and we continue daily to work on details of the rules, and they're pretty far along in it. So specifically, May 6th is the date that the application will come out, meaning this is the exact detail of what we want in your application. And you'll have, I think they're a little ambiguous on the time frame, but you'll have a couple months to get all of the requirements of the application submitted. And then by the way that the legislature set up the timelines, by September of 2017, they have to administer or award these licenses. So that's kind of a real timeline on it.
Yeah, well, then you have 9 months to be in production, so you have to be
Your permits
really
this year or next year?
It would be 9 months from September 17, so you have to be producing by what, June?
Yeah,
June 18?
Yeah, they have to build to hit their production timeline by 18. You need to have 9 months from September to get it built.
So your deadline for your application is this May or next May?
No, this May.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
So if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer them, but that's what we're really looking for is some kind of resolution so it's not prohibited in the township.
What kind of facility are we talking about? These greenhouse type facilities with
Yeah,
security
there'd
around?
be a head house. We have a site plan that we've drawn up for right up on top of the hill up there behind where I have my office now. But I think, what did it show? It's somewhere. The initial greenhouse is an acre or so.
They'll be on commercial property, not residential.
No, it's commercial. It's up on right by the sewer.
Yes. There's several copies in here if you want to pass them down and take one. And, that site plan just shows the footprint of it, but more specifically to understand what it is. I've been traveling around the last couple months to really, I operate a greenhouse in Burton Township to grow lettuce and herbs. And It's a greenhouse, but it's like Fort Knox. So the security requirements from the state are, they're extreme. It's not, out of these greenhouses, facilities, you don't sell a bag of marijuana. In Ohio, it's not even legal to sell the actual flower of the bud, right?
They're in liquid forms.
It's got to be in liquid form, and it's strictly medical. So these things are really going to become pharmaceutical companies, is what they are. And Ohio's got some they've done a good job of making the law of it. They've seen the mistakes of Colorado and California and Michigan. And I've been out to these states, and it's like the wild, wild west, right? So anybody and their brother's growing stuff in their garage or their basement, and they're selling it to wherever. It's not heavily regulated. In Ohio, they did a great job of learning and making some strong rules about it. So the facilities are more like a jail than a greenhouse, quite frankly.
I looked into that pertaining to the zoning and stuff, and actually I talked to Mr. Peets and Mr. Maduri. I gotta call him tomorrow about it, and at the present time, I figured, well, we could find something from the Township Association or something like that, and basically cut and paste something, bang, that way there's something in place. Nobody in Portage County has done anything.
Yes, they have. Excuse me.
Well, I'm just,
Freedom has prohibited.
okay, well, prohibited.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to go forward and waste our time.
Oh.
If the township's not behind us. So freedom has prohibited, and
I was looking for something to put together so that I can have that.
So it's permitted.
So
it's permitted now. I mean, but we don't want to go halfway through this thing and have somebody in township say, we don't want this
So
facility
you
in
understand
township.
what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
It's a good.
Give you a better opportunity.
Yeah, I think the state, they'd like to see something volitional from where you're going to be at that says, okay, it's not excluded, but we would like, not only for our own benefit, but I think it would look good on an application if they knew that it's been discussed and, there's a consensus on it that it's going to be an okay use for the property.
Well, Ravenna Township passed it, did they not?
It was in the paper, Joe, but I'm not sure what they did.
Yeah, I think they did.
It did pass.
They did? Okay. They permitted it, in other words.
Yes.
I mean, this is gonna be slim. I mean, it's pretty rigorous going through this application process and the financial, the wherewithal you have to get this thing going. It's not,
I think the challenge is they've legalized it in the state of Ohio, but they haven't made the rules yet.
well, most of them are done. They'll be complete in what, a
We're still
month.
working on them.
Yeah, it's not ideal, I agree with that.
Right.
Yeah, they're kind of running down multiple roads, but you go to that website is awesome, it's very informative, and they update it. They're, like daily, they're having these meetings with the Ohio legislature, and they're updating it. And the draft rules are all in there, and they're past the draft stage, they're past the public comment, and they're kind of just fine-tuned the very fine details of it now, and you can see all those updates daily on that website.
Would you say that website again, please?
It's, I believe it's ohiomedicalmarijuana.gov. And then you can click, when you get on there, you can click on different things. Listen, if you get a cultivation license, if you're going to be a producer, you can grow it in a warehouse, you can grow it in a greenhouse, you can't grow it outdoors, right? But all the same type of stringent rules apply, but you can't dispense it. Okay, I mean, you can't sell it to the public. You can't have a storefront. You can't. You got to put it in an armored car that leaves at random times of the day and different routes. And
There's a parent plan in UPC that's tracked from
seed
inception,
And you're only looking at the cultivation point.
Yes, there's two pieces. There's several. There's three things really. There's the guy that grows it, cultivator, right? Then the person that processes it, because it's not saleable in its raw form as a marijuana bud, right? So you have to compress it, like somebody said, into liquid. All right, there's machines at CO2 pressure where they extract it, and what they do is it's not what you maybe think it is. They take this product and they compress it into an oil or wax, and not only that, they break out the three main parts of it. And there's three main parts to marijuana. It's THC, the part that gets you high. Then there's terpenes, which is the stuff that smells funky, right? And then the third part, that's really the medicinal part, is called cannabinoids, or CBD. And there's a ton of research going on that part of it, and they're finding real-world examples where it's helping people with, various diseases like post-traumatic stress disorder or Crohn's disease, or there's 20 on that website. You'll see 20 diseases that they're going to allow doctors, if they so choose, to recommend it for people. And that's it. And once you get a patient card, then you can go to dispensaries, which You know, I don't know of anybody, I don't think you're gonna see those around here, you're gonna see those in highly populated areas. And that's where, you know, this processed form of liquid will get sold to, and it'll get sold through prescribed patients. And that's,
We are an extractor's license.
yeah, so it makes sense to have that where you extract it and you sell it as a finished good to the dispensary. So we don't want to be a dispenser. We want to
So
grow it.
basically, it goes out in a gallon jug.
So you want to grow and extract it? Now, or what kind of control equipment do you have for the vapors and that coming off of?
There's no vapors. Other than the smell of it, internal, I think the laws with the state are pretty clear. Any smell cannot leave the property, okay? Any smell of, the smell of the greenhouse or certainly anything with the extraction. The extraction process is, there's no smell to it. Can't smell it.
It's in a closed lab. The whole extraction process is probably in a room by, 20 by 20 in a facility like that. It just doesn't take any room to do it. It's just 2 presses.
With like a hydraulic press that you use for
No, I think there's
oil?
2, aren't they? No, I've got a picture of one if you want to see it.
I was just curious.
Yeah, it's literally, it's in a vessel, okay?
Yeah.
And they're using CO2, and they're using pressure.
Okay.
And they're
So it's compressed air that they're using to generate the pressure rather than a set of pistons.
exactly.
Mr. Weiss, you had some questions?
Yeah, one thing that I asked our legal counsel was, you have an agricultural exemption with this?
I would say that it is, but it doesn't apply to us anyway.
Yeah, his response was medical marijuana is not exempt from township zoning regulations, so we'd have to pass some sort of zoning.
Well, is that Maduri talking?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, he's our legal counsel.
Listen, on that, honestly, I think it's worth to be open about all this. I've talked to some people and they agree with that. That it's not, this doesn't automatically make it allowed just because it's a plant. And I've heard the same thing from legal counsel.
And
Who wants to fight about it? I mean, that's not why we're
Yeah,
here. We're here to say, we want your blessing is what we want, so.
Yeah, my concern was we go through it like you said, and they come back and say, oh no, it has to be zoning approved. And you're down the road, and they come back and say, no, you haven't procedurally done the right thing.
Well, but what we did in the other facility or the other location, we have a letter from the council. It's permitted there, it's a permitted use, so that's what we're looking for, a permitted use.
According to Mr. Maduri, if the trustees pass this, our zoning board would still have to pass the resolution, which would be recommended by the trustees probably. They would have to go under as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then 2 other quick things. One is, I remember when you had rezoned for residential, you were in that meeting.
That was a different parcel.
Yeah, but I remember you saying, you said, I'm this old, and I'm not going to say what your age is, what you said.
Please don't tell anybody.
And you said you're a farmer, and I want to compliment you. You are a really exceptionally good farmer and things. So I'm not concerned about how you're going to do this. I'm just concerned that you procedurally go through it properly, so you can have it done properly. And the only question is, remember.
Well, I will personally check with my own legal counsel, because I have much more confidence in him than your counsel.
Okay, that's fine. And if it doesn't have to be done, that's fine. We want to make sure we do this properly.
He's the one that told Joe that by myself wanting to make a contribution to the township, that it was a bribe.
Well, no.
And that's not what it was. It was about Ted over there wanting to hire a drug counselor for the high school and sharing the funds with him in the community.
Yeah, I had read
aside from the tax base, which is going to be big.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm looking forward to that. It'd be good for the whole school system and or the township. I did have, on Chris's advice, I wrote a letter to the Ohio Ethics Commission, and because the way it was all lumped into one situation, that they kind of got it down. They even said specifying, I thought I gave you a copy of that picture.
You did.
I think specifying what the school would do with some funds was not a good thing as well. So, however, down the road someplace, let's say you're in business for a year or two, whatever, and you want to make contributions to the township, that becomes an entirely different entity. But just that it was lumped together in one deal, it almost sounds like I'll do this for you, if you do this for me.
To that point, you
Well,
realize,
excuse me, Joe, what I think you told me you said is if I was gonna give an individual that, it would be considered a bribe. But if I was gonna give it to a township, it absolutely was not.
Exactly.
That's right.
However, but the ethics commission had to get involved, so that's right.
They gave you the green light, is what that's what the letter said, right?
Yeah.
There was no violation.
Well, they were kind of vague on things, saying that it didn't really sound too good at this point in time. They cited the quoted the laws and everything, but didn't actually say no, but they didn't exactly say yes either. So it's just kind of a gray area, but again, if it was down the boulevard somewhere, then
Well, you know, we can keep it in our pocket. I mean, if
Sure.
people aren't interested, that's
Oh,
fine. I think Ted would be interested, and we'd be interested in supporting the community.
I think the idea is, what I feel going around, there's a perceived negative. Okay? And there's a lot of, there's a lot of drug problems everywhere. I mean, it's pervaded our society anymore. It's all we hear about border walls and stopping this and all this stuff. And we don't want it to come across as a perceived negative. I personally feel that there's gonna be some merit that comes out of this whole
Well,
process.
through your investigations from the other sites, what have you seen there from, security issues with that or surrounding areas?
It's like
the
Fort
property
Knox.
values
Fort
of the
Knox.
town, because people have this in their neighborhood.
Well, I can only speak to the one I've been to, and John's been to many more of them, but the one I was at in Canada is like Fort Knox.
Yeah, it's, an example, I've seen several places, I've seen several headlines. I was at a meeting in Chardon where they wanted to put it right in a residential, literally right next to a residential neighborhood. They wanted to do it indoors. And listen, if you build one of these and there's somebody 30 feet from you, you're probably gonna smell weed coming out of it, right? That's not what we wanna do at all. Eastlake proved it, okay? There was a group that came in that had a great plan, good solid people, that they were trustworthy and were gonna follow through what they said. They put a licensing fee on it. They made a resolution in their community and put an annual licensing fee on the square footage for it. So it wasn't like a problem. But those guys were the same way. They wanted it to be a positive thing for the community, not a negative. So as far as property values, that's hard to say, I don't think you put it in a residential neighborhood or right next to it.
I have a question. Are you going to ask for a tax abatement on any structures?
Haven't thought about that.
That's not off,
We haven't really.
that's off the table or on the table?
Well, I won't say yes or no at this point. But I have, my opinion on tax abatement is a small pie is better than no pie. But, I just went through that in Millfield with all my real estate up there. It went 10 years and now my taxes jumped on one building $75,000 a year, and it's great for the school. The school needs the money, but there's a business there operating too. And they have to function and maintain profitability. So I don't want to take it off the table, but there's a partial tax abatement. I haven't got that part yet, to be honest with you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah.
Mr. Ellis?
Yeah, in that meeting, going back to that meeting, there was a lot of discussion of water supply, the water over in that area. Is there any problems you anticipate? Do you recycle the water with the process?
I don't think, John's got an operation up there now, and it's,
You recycle it, the plant transpired, right? So it's a function of how many plants are in there. And the way the thing will be built is sanitation is an important thing when you want to grow a healthy plant. So, and water is important too. So whatever water comes in, it'll go through a sanitation process. There's a few different options out there. When we water the plant, the water will get recollected and go back to the sanitation processing to get reused.
So the water's recycled?
Exactly. And actually, that's a part of it, as part of your application. The state cares about that. Is this sustainable operation? So yeah, that's part of it.
That was a concern because there was concern about that. Go ahead.
Oh, do you have another question?
Yeah. I have a concern about the CRA. If we're gonna approve this, and we're not getting any tax revenue out of it, I'm kind of concerned.
why would you say you wouldn't get in? You get a partial tax abatement, that's not, no.
Well, it's like a blank check, isn't it?
Why is it?
Well, you could ask for a full.
Well, you could, but I'd support that too. I just don't want to take it off the table at this point. That's all.
Once you get this established, is this something that understanding there's FBI
And
clearance.
you wouldn't, even if you got it taken, excuse me, Joe, it only goes for a number of years, and you're back to full tax.
Yeah, but we lose that tax money in that time period.
Well, you don't.
But if you can't afford to build it in the first place, you don't get anything.
You don't lose anything you didn't have.
Now, later on, let's just say this goes through and you build buildings there, is this something that would be open to the township officials to view?
Well, I'm sure until it's operational.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you got, even to visit these things, and I've visited some, you gotta call ahead of time, you gotta register with the state, you gotta pass your FBI background check, all the employees have to pass it. I mean, I rival it against, you know, I'm from Jolly County, like the safety center out there. That's what it's like, it really is.
I told John that, and he's not as concerned as I would have been, but you may have trouble filling a slot for 50 people that can pass a drug test and an FBI background check. And I mean, let's face it, you don't have a big labor pool to pull from out here. So that's one of our concerns, being this far out in the country. I mean, I've got a couple other businesses, and my daughter's got one. You have trouble hiring people today.
Sure.
And then when you throw the drug test on it, and you throw an FBI background check on it, it's a concern going forward.
Mr. Laffer, you had a question earlier?
Yeah. In terms of you being able to judge whether there's any concern about you doing this in the community here and people coming back with some kind of disaffection to what you're up to here, there's a real easy way to determine whether that's the case or not before you proceed. And that is to put a condition in whichever piece of your property you want to put this on that gives you permission, unconditional permission to put the building on that property. We could change that on the zoning board and put it there, and then it could pass through the county and go to the trustees to vote on it. And if there is any problem, there will be a petition to put it on the ballot.
No, we don't have time for that. I mean, this application has to be in May.
Of this year.
We'll just go somewhere else if you people aren't.
But there's no way to judge it before May.
It's a state law. It's the law of the land now, sir. It isn't something we want to do, this nefarious or whatever.
I'm all for it anyway.
It's permitted.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, it's Fort Knox. So, we'll just go somewhere else. That's really what it boils down to.
The procedure is,
So you
according to
think
Mr. Maduri, is that the trustees do the resolution to accept it, and then from there, the zoning board passes the resolution accordingly. So it's not the typical process of going all the way around and back to the trustees.
Well, why would it even go to the county?
It doesn't have to go to
It
the
doesn't
county.
go to the county.
No.
It's basically the people in this room.
The township has a lot of latitude as to what goes on.
Yeah, I understand that. But again, it's like, I'm going down to Freedom tomorrow night just to talk to them, because I'm really not interested in being there, but I want to find out why they prohibited it. And that's my question for John Zisco. Why did you prohibit it? It's a state law. It's a legal business in the state of Ohio now. Just please tell me why you prohibited it. That's what I want to know. And which is what I'd ask you people too. Is if you don't want it here, why don't you want it here?
Mr. Lyson?
Yeah, so I did hear a concern about the CRA, and I wanted to chime into if we're being real here, the biggest impact for the CRA is us, as a school system. We've discussed the CRA with the school board. The school board would fully support, and if you need a resolution from the school board, they can provide you one. School board would support Nelson Township or Freedom Township supporting a CRA for the simple fact that Mr. Bonner mentioned. Some pie is better than no pie, and eventually we get the whole pie.
And that's exactly what we did in Middleville with the 185 acres we annexed in. The township and the village sharing the revenues, but it's tax abated. And that's exactly what the opinion was. In 10 years, then we get it all. And I'm going to tell you something, as a business owner of 750,000 square feet in Middleville, the taxes are astronomical on this real estate.
So if you need something from the school board, as far as a resolution, we're fully prepared to give that to you that would support and then we would be the ones impacted. Really
Yeah,
glad to see
if you do it, Jeff, there's a lot of people that are gonna come in, folks, that are gonna ask you for some type of tax abatement, but, you know, have a vision of what's gonna happen 10 years from now. Because if you don't do it, then they go somewhere else, and then you got nothing. So, it makes sense.
Mr. Brown, your letter earlier,
If somebody asks for it, I'm saying.
you mentioned about donating monies to the township for so many facilities. And then you said if there were additional facilities, they would share in that. Shares are contributing to that initial
Additional
amount?
facilities?
Yeah, I think that's what the letter said. But if there were additional facilities other than what was proposed.
You mean
originally-
expanded facilities?
Yeah, expanding facilities,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think, John, and I should have brought that up, but the way they handled it there, they basically put a tax on the square footage. Is
I
that
just made it an annual license.
an annual fee, you know, whether it's 50 cents a square foot or something like that, and then it can go to wherever, school board or whatever.
The school gets 56.7% out of the.
No, I mean, if you wanted to do
Yeah.
something beyond that for
Yeah,
the township,
that's typically what they would
I
do.
originally talked to you about,
Yeah, yeah.
is what I'm referring to. But I think what you meant is, or what I meant probably was if the thing expands, the amount will expand.
Okay.
And I think right now in the state of Ohio, that everything starts out at 75,000 to 25,000 square feet of actual growing area. And then as the market grows and the licenses, prescriptions get written, and if there's a need, then you add on and you add on. So hopefully it will expand, but there's a big upfront cost on the first go around.
Any other questions for Mr. Bonner? Yes, sir.
I did have one extra, just regarding the waste hog. You said there, if you break it down, there's 3 components and 2 are not useful and not useful. What happens to the non-useful components?
It's seed to sale, right? When you take what they do, these things don't, initially you grow them from seed and you start a plant. So part of this business has an area in the greenhouse that's called mother plants, right? They're big plants that are genetically, you know, they're strong and they're the best plants, so you take cuttings off them, right? Like you take off a petunia or something. You stick it, you get the plant going. As soon as you take that cutting, then it's UPC back to that mother plant. And it gets fall tracked through the greenhouse to the point all the way to when you harvest it, all right? You take the yield off it and the weight, and you take not only the weight of what's saleable, but the weight of everything else. You catalog that and then you destroy it. When I say destroy it, you have to have a grinder to grind it up, and then they do things like put manure in it, or something where nobody's gonna pick through the dumpster or whatever. It's gonna be completely unsaleable or usable, or, you know, they're trying to avoid what's called diversion, meaning any way it can get to the gray market or the black market, or however you want to say it, right? So there's on that website, there's a ton of information about, they did a good job with it, about thinking about those things.
Okay. There's no other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
We'll be in touch, I guess.
Yeah, well, we have another meeting.
Okay.